and welcome back to the Mood Lab podcast. It is so cool to speak to you again. Honestly, for me, it's only a couple days later, so it's not a whole week that I'm recording again. And I'm excited to share this one with you on Thursday. And I just thought I'm gonna update you on some things, and then we dive into a topic that is very dear to my heart. And it's so funny because, the Lord is funny with those things, right? So I had this topic planned and I kind of thought I'm going to talk about this topic in the future, and I noted it down. And then it really got to me in a way that I myself went through some things where this became very apparent, and something that I thought about a lot and had long, lengthy conversations about with a friend of mine, because I had some feelings arising that I could relate back to when I was younger, and it was a very interesting thing to dive back into, and also to just get it off my chest. Sometimes we just need to do that. Sometimes when we feel something and we feel either disappointment or hurt, we just need to talk to someone and let it go, and also just to feel less alone with it. It helps a ton. So if you're going through something, really, I encourage you to, just talk to someone, talk to your friend, and that just might help you overcome whatever is currently bothering you. Or talk to Jesus, that helps also. So first of all, I wanted to give you a short update on my gut. So actually it's been a really good past 2 weeks. I think I haven't updated you in like 2 weeks about it. So just wanted to recap that. I have actually started to eat some dairy, and I started with ghee, and I kind of got a bit obsessed with the buttery taste. So I've been baking the same cookies 4 or 5 times now in a matter of 10 days or so. So that was so fun as well. And I have plenty of cookies to eat. I'm actually crumbling them up, and then I pour some milk over them. So dairy-free milk actually. And so I have my tiny portion of dairy in the cookie, and that's how I'm getting used to it. My nutritionist recommended ghee to me because it is way lower in lactose. It's clarified butter or something. And it is actually really great. You can just store it outside. It's very soft and creamy, and you can just add it like coconut oil or something like that to your cookies and then bake them, and they get this really nice buttery taste. And also what is really great about it is when you put the cookies into the fridge, they kind of get more solid. So I don't know, it's just really a nice consistency. I can't even tell you, but I really love the texture. So highly recommend. If you want the recipe, just text me and I'll give it to you. I've already handed it out a couple of times. So if you feel like baking cookies and want to have this amazing texture, and just text me and I'll give it to you. And I was really surprised actually that my body was able to handle the ghee so well. So I did not notice any intolerance. I didn't feel bloated, or my tummy wasn't bothered by what I was eating. And that's actually really great. I've also been eating some more chicken, so it's kind of become a weekly thing. And I'm trying to incorporate it here and there, trying to mix up the curry a bit so that I don't eat the same thing the whole time. And so I'm really trying to take it one step at a time, and hopefully introducing some other options, some other meat options, varieties, etc., and some other recipes over the next couple of days. And just to get some more variety, because that obviously helps with just having more fun while eating. But I really am so grateful that we are going in this direction, and that it actually really seems to be working, and that my gut actually really seems to be healing, which is so exciting, because who would have thought? But also I just wanted to say that everyone is so sweet on this journey. I've been at a dinner party last week, and this family that I was hosted by, they were so incredibly sweet, actually cooking some eggs for me to have on the side so that I would have more options, even though they already had plenty of other things that I could eat. So it's just so sweet when people are so welcoming and really see that you're on this journey and they really want to support it. It's so lovely, and I really, really enjoy that so much. I adore that. It's really something so valuable that people care and check in with you, it is very special. It's not something that is a given. And sometimes in my past as well, I always felt like a burden. And it has been something that came in the past, in between of friendships, in between of me being included in something because there was something that I couldn't eat, and so I wasn't asked out to go to this specific restaurant, or people would just not ask me at all, or I wouldn't come because I knew I couldn't eat anything there. And partially it was me restricting myself, and partially it was because my body wasn't able to handle the options that then would be provided for someone who would be eating vegan, for example, or vegetarian. And so it was very hard to find something to some extent. And obviously not everyone that you meet is happy to go to a vegan or vegetarian restaurant so that you have plenty of options. So sometimes that can really get in between you and other people. And I don't think that that is necessary. I do think that the right people around you obviously are trying to accommodate you. And I've always noticed that when I was really truly friends with someone, they would definitely try to accommodate me and try to find a spot where we both would be able to eat something. But it is also so fun when you're in like a bigger group, when you can just explore more things, have more options, and aren't as restricted in terms of what you can eat and what you cannot eat. And you can just have a different kind of experience, I believe, because otherwise you always have to be the person selecting the restaurant, taking everyone there, instead of maybe also trying something else that someone else likes. And yeah, so I think that is something that I truly am enjoying to see, that I will be more and more able to eat outside and eat at different places and also try things that someone else loves. And that doesn't mean that at home I need to eat this all the time. Really, truly, I'm such a health nut. I will always be eating so incredibly healthy at home, only buying the realest and most natural ingredients and whipping up my own food. But sometimes when you're outside, it is just fun to be a bit more flexible, I do believe. Also, I don't know if you're noticing my very chic outfit. I mean, you can barely see it. You cannot see that it's actually a dress and that I have a blazer on top, really. It's barely visible, but I am so excited because I'm going to church later. It is Sunday again, which is so mind-blowing, honestly, because Sundays seem to just rush in. It's Sunday all the time, it feels. I don't know, weeks just pass by so quickly. I don't know what's happening there, but I'm so excited for today. I love Sundays. I think Sundays are my favorite day of the week, to be honest. Just because of that, because it's just beautiful to gather in community, to be in the presence of the Lord in that kind of setting. And yes, obviously we are with the Lord every single day, and we have our quiet time, and we have our own prayer time and our own Bible reading time. We have our Bible study time where I'm with friends as well, but it is just really beautiful to worship together, to sing together, to also be able to listen to some sermon that always is so aligned with what we are going through in life. It's so fascinating how the Lord always points our pastor, and I think it's happening everywhere all around the world. The Lord always points our pastor to where we are all at. So it's always collectively that we're sitting there and we're like, did our pastor listen to the conversations that I was having this week? Did my pastor come to my home and listen to me while I was praying, while I was, I don't know. So it's so funny. I'm always so fascinated by how that works, by how particular and how much the Lord is in the details of things, and how much He really values every tiny bit of our life, and how much that is reflected in what we get to listen to on a Sunday, how much the Lord really knits us together as well and brings us together and is there to serve us in the season that we're in. And also, I'm always wondering this, but how cool is it that often when we are at a church, that this community that we're in seems to be going through a similar thing at the same time? Like at my church, for example, there are a lot of 20 to 30 something year olds, and all of them seem to have the same things that they're currently going through. There's a huge amount of thoughts around dating and marriage in there. There's a huge amount of establishing yourself business-wise in there and figuring out, is this the right job that I'm in, or should I try something different? There are all of these things that we naturally obviously would go through in this age group that are very present. And I think it's so funny how these people in this season are brought together in the same place and can go through this season together. It's something very beautiful, honestly. And today I'm gonna be welcoming. So I don't know if you know what welcoming is. If you've never been to a church, maybe, and you're listening to this, you maybe don't know what that is. And maybe your church calls it differently, so you wouldn't know. So I'll be standing at the door and I'll be welcoming people. And if someone is new, I can direct them to where they need to go and that they can get a coffee beforehand and where they can wait until the service starts. So that is such a beautiful position and thing to do, or service to do, because I truly think it's so impactful. And I have been so majorly impacted by it. When I first walked into this church, I was welcomed so wonderfully. I felt right at home. I felt like these people actually care that I'm there. And they took me by my hand. They placed me on a seat. They made sure that I would just get to know a couple more people already so that I would have someone to talk to, and they immediately tried to involve me as much as they could. And I think that is something so beautiful and something that really is so special and so helpful, because just imagine you would go to a church or any place really, and you would go in and you would just feel lost. You wouldn't really want to come back as much as you would want to come back when you are greeted so in such a friendly, beautiful manner, and you feel immediately that you are welcome there. I think that is actually so funny, because I mean, it is called welcoming, right? But that's really truly what this service is about. It is about welcoming people so that they feel welcome. And so I'm really happy and glad that I can do this, and that I get the chance to hopefully have the same impact on someone that someone else had on me when I first stumbled into this church. And yeah, so that is what I'm so looking forward to in about an hour. And yeah, it's just very special. But something that I wanted to truly dive into, and it's so connected with everything I said so far, honestly, is friendships. And I don't know about you, but I've moved to another country, so I am not living where my family is. I don't have family around me. And so I think friendships in that sense have become even more important than they would be when I would be around my family. I do think at every stage in life, friendships are truly important, because I do think we are not supposed to live life just by ourselves. We're supposed to be in community. I've talked about this plenty on here, but I do also think that sometimes when we're with our family, we might not need friendships as much around us because we have a place to come home to. But if we don't have that, and if we come home to an empty apartment where it's just us, then sometimes I do feel that fostering friendships, it becomes even more so something that we need to take care about and really put effort in. And I think that is something, sometimes I hear people talking about how they have no friends and how they seem to not be able to connect with anyone. And obviously that can happen. You can be in an environment where there is no one around that you truly can connect with, or that you truly have nothing in common with. So I think obviously starting out to go somewhere where you are surrounded by people who have the same interests. And if you are Christian, it's so much easier. You can simply go to a church and you can adopt a whole church family, which is so beautiful. So I would really highly recommend you to do that, because I do think that we are not supposed to, or not meant to, walk this walk with Jesus by ourselves here on earth, and that he truly wants us to be in friendships, and that is so valuable because people can hold you accountable. They can help you to stay on the right path, on the right track. You have someone to share life with. You have someone to talk to when you're sad, or when you're happy, or when you've experienced something that you need to share, or that you want an opinion on, or anything really. Friendships are so beautiful, and they really make life so much better. Also, just because we can share our experiences. I think sharing our experiences is one of the most valuable and most beautiful things that I truly think are just, they're priceless, honestly. They're just incredible. And for me growing up, I actually had a really hard time with friendships. I almost always seem to have been the odd one out, and I seem to have like individual friendships that would be happy to be friends with me while we were just the two of us. But as soon as we would go to school or would be in an environment where other people were around, I wasn't as important anymore to those people, and I would kind of be left out. And that has definitely done something with me, and it definitely has impacted my life in some way, because it has been something that stayed tender within me. It made my heart tender to situations that are concerning friendships. And when I got older, more and more I realized that I was just not in the right places, and I was just not encountering the right people yet, and it was just not my season, I guess, for friendships. And the older I got, the more I try to fit into other communities in a way, and I try to find my place through going to places where people were with the same interest. And that helped a ton, actually. That helps so much, because as soon as you go somewhere where people share mutual interest, you have something to talk about, and you make a new friend very easily. And so that has been my last couple of years. I often had people around me with whom I shared interests with, and that was so beautiful and so helpful, and really something that I appreciated so much. Over time, though, sometimes we change, and so we do not always keep all of those friendships, and that is something so natural as well. And I do think there is a season for friendship, and some friendships are actually lifetime friendships. I don't know if you are blessed to have one like this. I do have a friendship like this, and it is one of my actually longest and closest friends. And the interesting thing is that we have a long distance friendship, so we truly only see each other about twice or 3 times a year. And that means that every time we get to spend time together, we truly value that time, and we usually spend it together, like staying in the same apartment for a couple of days, which is so valuable, because in that way you can truly do life together for a couple of days, really enjoy each other's presence, and then you part ways again, and you only get to see each other from a distance and follow each other's lives from a distance. But truly, it's so valuable to have these type of friendships as well, because how beautiful is it to be close to someone and to just love someone so dearly, whom you've been growing up with for such a long while. Someone also who loves you for the person that you are, even though you've maybe been 20 different versions of yourselves in the years that you've known each other. I mean, this is now a bit exaggerated, but it's so cool to have someone by your side who knows you through different versions of yourself while you're dabbling in different kind of things, while you maybe are studying, and then doing your master's, maybe then you start to work, then you dabble in a different kind of interest for a while, you try something different after a while, maybe then at some point you get married, have children, etc. And just being able to follow someone through all these stages and not lose the appreciation and love that you have for this person is so cool. It's so valuable, because a lot of times, like I said before, we have these friendships that are for a season, and then these friendships are very much based on what we like and what the other person likes, and it really connects us just by the fact that, for example, both of us are into a certain thing, and that certain thing just makes us connect for a while. I do think the most valuable friendships, though, are the ones that are outside of the things that we actually like, and that are outside of the things that are just for a season, for example, and the friendships that are truly based on character, because we enjoy each other's presence no matter what we're currently interested in. I think that is something very rare, but it's also, I think, one of the most beautiful things, because it means that this friendship can be sustained over a long period of time. And I wanted to share with you a bit my experience now that I'm 28 years old, if you didn't know, and moving to a new country, having to make friends from scratch and having to connect with people from scratch, really starting at zero. It's been a wonderfully blessed journey, honestly, and it truly has helped, like I said in the beginning, to place myself into a community. And when I first moved here and didn't know the Lord in the beginning, I was actually also adopted into a little family, basically. It was so sweet. A friend of mine who had also moved here, she actually introduced me to all of her friends. And so for a couple of months, I truly spent life together with those people. And I have such an appreciation for those people. It was the most beautiful experience that I could have imagined. And after a while, though, some of them moved back to the original places that they came from. So not all of them were here to stay in Lisbon. And so it was actually the moment in time where I started to go to church. So there was a bit of a season where I didn't have as many friends and as many people around me. But after a while, I started to get closer and closer with people at church, and now have some of my best friends there. And truly, I tell you that if you feel like you have a hard time with friendships, or you feel like you're not connected enough with people, it truly takes an effort. You truly have to make sure that you check in with people, that you ask them, hey, let's go for coffee, let's do this together. You truly have to plan things and invite people. You have to take initiative yourself as well. It doesn't help to just sit there and think friendships will just happen to me. Friendships are something that have to be built. You have to be involved. You have to make sure that you're fostering those friendships. If you like someone, if you enjoy their company, you really need to put effort into building that friendship. And I think especially so when you're an adult, because it's not your parents who say, well, you're gonna have a play date now, or it's not the school that kind of brings you together every day. No, it's way more of an activity that you have to foster, that you have to make sure that you're meeting up with that person regularly or following up with that person regularly. And it truly helps to only have a few friends that you are really close with, and the rest can be your community or extended family or however you want to call it. But truly make sure that there are some people that you truly enjoy their presence, that you make sure that you really check in with them and that you foster those friendships. And you are a listening ear to those people. You check in with how they're doing so that they notice that you truly care about them, and they will potentially reciprocate that. And obviously that doesn't work every time. And so sometimes even in friendship, you might like someone more than they like you, or their interests change and they just seem to be more interested in hanging out with a different person, and that is okay too. But if you really truly make sure that you're fostering a friendship and it is reciprocated, then it's something so valuable and something so beautiful can grow out of that, and you can truly do life together, which is so beautiful. I also wanted to touch upon friendship hurt, because I think that, or relational hurt really, that is something that we all have experienced probably in the past at one point or another, and we might have experienced that we've been excluded from something, or it might even happen nowadays in your life as well. And it has happened to me as well. It has happened to me a couple of days ago, where I felt like I actually thought I belonged to these people, in terms of these people are people that I hang out with regularly, and now they've been doing this and that, and they didn't take me with them. Which is obviously, I don't know the reason, I don't know why that is so, and sometimes these things we don't get to figure out. Sometimes these are things that we will figure out eventually, because we get to have a conversation where we get clarity around why we weren't there. And sometimes it can just be that actually it was no harm was intended really, and I do believe in a situation that is the case, but you were either just not invited or forgotten, or people thought that you wouldn't enjoy that type of thing, or whatever. Everything could be possible really, but it can happen. It can happen that you feel like you belong to a group of people, and then this exact group of people doesn't include you in a way that you would wish to be included. And I think one of the important things in there is that you have a conversation about it, and that's something that I'm always trying to have. I'm always trying to see if I can get to have a conversation with someone, to just ask, hey, why is that so? Or tell them, hey, I've been hurt by this. I think that is something that when I was younger, I wasn't able to do, and I didn't know how. And so I was always in the dark and always didn't know what was going on. Why is that so? Why isn't that person caring for me anymore? But nowadays, and at the age that I'm at, and with the life experience that I have, I guess I way more so feel like I am able to have these conversations. And sometimes these conversations are hard because you make yourself vulnerable, but it can be so gratifying and so valuable to have these type of conversations, because you will get clarity. And even if the clarity isn't satisfactory to you because you think, well, I don't understand that, I just don't understand, it still helps you to reframe and see, hey, no harm was meant and you weren't left out because you are an unlikable or bad person. Honestly, oftentimes these things happen because of either differences or someone just not noticing that you could be included into that situation or into that gathering or into that activity that is planned, and it really doesn't have to mean anything, but it can be really hurtful, especially if you do not come home to, for example, to your husband and you don't have a family of your own and you do also not live with your family that you originate from. Then obviously these situations are even more so important to us because we really want to be part of the groups that we think that we are part of. And so it is something that we need to navigate and that we need to learn, and that we also need to remember that friendships are ever evolving. So it might not be the season for this kind of friendship anymore, or this community anymore, or this group anymore, but maybe a new group is forming and you're already partially part of that new group, or this new group is currently consisting out of just individual people that you are really close with, and it might form into a tighter knit group that will hang out more together in the future. And sometimes, and that's what a friend of mine said yesterday as well, it can also be the case that you just have very different views in terms of, for example, your walk with the Lord. How close are you in His Word, and what are your hopes and dreams and your goals, and what is your desire in terms of working and doing things for His kingdom and really walking closely with the Lord every single day. Sometimes people have differences in that as well, and that could also just bring you into a position where you're connecting more with certain people and less so over time with others, because there's just a difference in what you value and what you want to spend your time with. So I think that is something that we can also keep in mind. And just know, if you have one or two really good friends, you have already won the lottery. You've already gotten the most valuable thing that you could ever have. Because honestly, there have been so many studies done in different places, and one of the recent ones that I read was from the US, and it says that there is like over 50% of people who say that they have no friends. And if that is you, truly put effort in trying to meet new people. Go to a place, go to your local church, place yourself in a community and start building friendships. And start with one person, really. Start with one person and try to get closer to them and try to get to know them. The more interest you have in someone, because you're genuinely interested, the more likely it is that a friendship is about to form, and that is something so beautiful. And just know, if you're scared of being hurt and if you're scared of being let down, that is very natural, especially if you have experienced relational hurt before, if you've been hurt in friendships. But truly, I tell you, the way that we learn to trust and that we learn to build friendships is by actually doing so. So by actually getting ourselves out there, by actually trying to foster friendships with people, and by putting ourselves out there. And I know for myself personally as well, what is always a challenge is that I seem to be very likable. So a lot of people always tell me how they think that I'm very likable and you're liked by everyone, etc. But being likable or being liked by everyone, not everyone obviously, but by a lot of people, that doesn't necessarily come with a built-in friendship. So it's not that likability makes you more of a friend, and it doesn't necessarily connect you closely with people. So that likability is very different to really truly being close to people and truly caring about them. And it is truly something that you, aside from that, need to foster. And what definitely can help though is if you come into a room and you're smiling and you're joyous because you're walking with Jesus, that obviously helps, because you will be radiant, you will have a certain openness, and openness obviously helps to connect with others. People will approach you naturally and you'll be able to approach others as well, and that helps so much with connecting with each other, and then fostering that friendship. That acquaintance that you just made can then form over time into a friendship. And also know that we have to be patient with those things, because friendships aren't built overnight. And yes, there are some of those situations where you meet someone and you instantly click, but most of the time friendships are truly formed by trusting each other, by sharing things with each other, and by doing life together, by meeting up, by experiencing things together, by making memories together. That truly is so helpful. And I wanted to read one story from the Bible to you because I thought it is so valuable and so beautiful, and it's all about friendship. It's in 1 Samuel 18, and it's the story of David and Jonathan about their friendship. And it says in verse 1, "As soon as he had finished speaking to Saul, the soul of Jonathan was knit to the soul of David, and Jonathan loved him as his own soul. And Saul took him that day and would not let him return to his father's house. Then Jonathan made a covenant with David because he loved him as his own soul. And Jonathan stripped himself of the robe that was on him and gave it to David, and his armor and even his sword and his bow and his belt. And David went out and was successful wherever Saul sent him, so that Saul set him over the men of war. And this was good in the sight of all the people, and also in the sight of Saul's servants." I think this story is so beautiful because it truly shows that friendships are formed by mutual trust, by a friendship love for each other, really appreciating each other, and by being there for each other and also empowering the other person. I think these are all things that are seen in this story and that are witnessed in that story. And by truly holding on to each other and being in it together, by really being in it together, doing something together, doing life together, mastering something together. And sometimes it's actually so real when we go through hardship or when we have a certain experience that brings us down, or we have something really joyous to share. When we share experiences, these things can truly bring you together as friends even more so. And just to share with you as well, I do think that when it comes to relationships, even romantic relationships, it is actually quite helpful oftentimes, if it is possible, if you meet someone as a friend first and you get to know each other first to some extent before you decide dating. It's such a beautiful thing because you can really truly get to know each other's character in a way that gives you more room to breathe, more room to experience each other, and truly seeing each other also around other people. Something so important when you're trying to date someone at some point, to truly form a friendship first, because also you want to have a partner who's your best friend. And that is so important because it's not only about romantic feelings and attractiveness. And yeah, these are important to some extent. You should definitely want to look at your partner and appreciate how he looks. But you also need to consider that you are choosing someone for life and you want to walk with someone for the rest of your life. You might want to raise kids together. You might need to organize certain things, care about an apartment, a house, whatsoever. There are so many things where you really want to have a tag team partner, much more so than the person that you're most infatuated with or the person that gives you the most butterflies in your stomach. You truly want to have someone by your side that you can do life with and that you can go through hardships with, and also through periods where you're on a high. Obviously, you want to really have someone by your side in friendship and in a romantic relationship who truly is there with you through the ups and downs of life. And that is something that I would, if I were you, look for in a friendship or a relationship as well. I'm doing this myself. This is what I'm trying to foster. I am somewhere at the beginning or middle of it in this season, because obviously me moving here a bit more than a year ago just, brings me at a stage where some of those friendships have tightened, some have evolved, some have changed, and it's a very interesting, beautiful place to be in. And I'm inspired by the friendship of David and Jonathan, and I think we can really, truly learn from them how they are there for each other and how they truly so value each other. And I truly think that if you treat everybody you meet as your brother and sister, and if you're truly kind to everybody, you will not have a hard time to connect with people. So I think that's all I wanted to say about friendships. Honestly, I feel like I shared a couple of things with you that might be helpful. I don't know if it blesses you. I don't know if it helps you in any way. I just think that we can all agree on that friendships are so valuable and so important, and that friendships are truly something that we all should foster and take care of, because they're important, as we are not meant to do life on our own. And especially when you're single, friendships are super important as well. And even when you're in marriage, it's so important to have friendships, because you want to have a tight-knit community that holds you accountable. And that is also one of the ingredients that truly belong into the season of marrying and being in marriage. When you get to know someone, you want to have friends around you that can hold you accountable, that can make sure that you're making a good choice because they know you very well. They ask the right questions. Obviously, they shouldn't necessarily be judging you for a decision that would actually be good, but they can be good counselors. They can be a good voice in your ear, asking you the right questions and guiding you on the right path, especially if you know each other well and if both people are walking with God, then both of you know what is important and what you're actually looking for, and you can question each other about these things that you're looking for and asking each other the right questions. I wouldn't want to get myself into any relationship, into any situation where I would not have any counselors. With that, I mean my friends, whom I can trust in, whom I can confide in, and whom I can share my thoughts, doubts, and my hopes with, because that is truly something so helpful. And friends can really keep you grounded and on the right path. Also with that, choose wisely, because friends can also bring you away from the path that you want to be on. Because maybe if you're like me and you truly want to be in the word of the Lord and you truly want to walk with the Lord as closely as possible, it would probably not be the best match to hang out with someone constantly who cares more about all sorts of worldly fun instead of being in the word of the Lord. So with that, it's also very helpful to see and to check for yourself, whom do I want to hang out with? Are these the right people for me? And do I also need to make a choice with some people in my life? And that doesn't mean that you need to let go everyone in your life or that you need to cut ties or whatsoever. That can also just mean that you maybe spent less time with someone but spent more time with someone else. And those things are just things that you can naturally navigate, and they can truly help you growing in that person that you want to be and growing on your walk with the Lord, growing in your relationship with Jesus. So I just think that's also a really good point to always be mindful about. And yeah, so that's all. I hope you have a beautifully blessed week. Thank you so much for being here as always. And if you haven't yet, please subscribe to this podcast on Spotify, Apple, or YouTube. Leave a comment or a review, give 5 stars or a like, and that would truly mean the world. It would be so helpful. As you know, I always say it, and I cannot wait to speak to you in the next episode. Bye!